Well, hello, everyone. This is April, John's assistant, and I'm here with Courtney Como, who is not John's assistant, but his, what are
Partner,
you? How do you do you have a
partner,
definition?
beloved.
His beloved. That is so beautiful. That's so nice. And Courtney has graciously decided to come help us put John in the hot seat and find out all of the things that he won't tell us on the calls because he's in charge, but today he is not in charge. So sit back, relax. If you think of any really good questions, go ahead and type it into the chat box and we will take care of them. So, Courtney, what are your qualifications to be this person that's going to interrogate John?
Well, I've never done an interview. This will be my first. Uh, so I'm just really excited to interview him, and I have a background in the healing hearts and healing arts, internal family systems, sound healing, and yeah, have been deeply devoted to my path and in service for the last 10 years.
So what you're telling me is your qualifications for interrogating John is that you know a lot about healing? That's
Well,
it.
I was saying some of my qualifications. My qualifications for interrogating him are all for love.
Well, we thought this would be really fun just to sit back, relax, ask John some questions that he probably wouldn't think about talking about in a regular call and see if we can dig up some dirt that we could use later. And let's go. We've got a whole list of questions. Some of you sent some in the Facebook group, but I had my daughter come up with some questions. I did, my
Aw.
husband. So we've got all kinds of questions. Some of them are serious, some of them not so much. Um, and I just realized, Courtney, the nice part about having you here is he can't pretend that the internet goes down because he doesn't want to answer the question because you'll still be on the internet.
It's true.
Okay, we got him. So do you want to ask the first question?
You go
Well,
ahead.
before
Yeah.
you ask the question, I just want to say it's so wonderful to
Hmm.
be here and to be on the side of it. And this just feels just like home. My heart's just open, um, and relaxed, and to be received in this way is a gift for me. And in the vein of that, yeah, you're gonna ask me questions about me and practices and different things. But I also want to be sure that we open up the call to anybody who may have personal questions, because that's one of my favorite things to do also, is to collaborate and to really, one of my gifts is just seeing potentiality in the field around people that I'm in intimacy with on a call and in a personal question. And from that intimacy, there's this alchemy that arises, and that for me is my sweet spot. It's, and Courtney knows, it's like me one-on-one with someone. It can be so wonderful, and sometimes I get a little ahead of myself. Courtney goes, go slower, you just met them. I can't help it. But anyway, again, I want to thank you both, and I want to thank everybody who's here. And yeah, y'all raise your hands, ask questions, and we'll get into that a little bit later on the call.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna start with a benign question. John, how popular were you in high school? Were you in the
That
band or the choir? Were you theater? Were you football? Where were you?
I was actually a lot of different things. I was more into sports, and I found sports to be um, an outlet for getting away from my house. Was really part of it. It's like
Mm,
a place where I can belong. I can escape how uncomfortable being at home felt, and also how boring being at home felt sometimes. Uh, but for me, sports was a place to like find community, like find friendship. Um, but even in that, and in high school, I would say that I was popular, unpopular. And I think it's been a theme all my life that frankly probably continues until now in different ways, where I always feel like I kind of belong, but don't really belong, where I kind of feel like I'm understood because I'm good at certain things, but not understood completely for who I am. And I'm sure y'all can relate this. Don't you just sometimes feel like you're just from somewhere else, or you have all this? And for me, I'm very Piscean. Courtney knows this well, that the way I explain myself sometimes, it's so out here or very poetic, or I'm using words that go in streams instead of very direct. And it's an articulation that I know is serving me, but also one that I'm learning to refine. Um, because ultimately for me, it's, again, like I said earlier, it's about connection. It's about that intimacy. And if ever I'm alienating others because of my incapacity to communicate what's flowing through me, I just know that it's something that I'm growing into and getting to learn in a different way. Instead of putting myself in a box, it's this is what I was in high school, and that's just the way I am, and people don't get me, or I'm from out here, because I'm from out here, nobody understands my languaging. And I just see it as a beautiful, vulnerable, to this day, very vulnerable, heart expansive, gifted mirror, where the tenderness of that is also cracking me open. So yeah, I was popular, but I didn't feel popular. I was accepted and didn't feel accepted. I was surrounded by a lot of friends and felt so alone simultaneously. Yeah, and it's been part of the journey. What are you talking about, John? Funny.
I think that's not an un well, that's the wrong way to say it. I think maybe that's what high school was like for everybody. No matter how popular you were, you always felt like it was all a facade a bit.
No, look at Courtney. Courtney was the popular one. Everyone loved her. Everyone wanted to hang out with her, and that still continues now in her
Oh
adult
my
life.
gosh, were you really, Courtney?
And maybe I'm projecting incorrectly. I don't think so.
Oh,
I
wait a
think
minute.
about it.
You're telling us this because, oh, look, I got the hot girl that everybody wanted in high school, and she's mine now.
No, what I got was alignment. And how beautiful is that? And what I got gifted was such a beautiful balance and mirror into my life to not only help me see where I am and versions of myself that articulate in a way that can resonate with someone who I consider to be so beautiful and so integrated within herself, but also someone that, because I'm committed to relationship, not companionship. And I heard someone talk about this not too long ago. Because I'm committed to relationship, that it's someone who can meet me and is capable and perhaps surpasses me in lots of different ways into my growth edges, those things that don't feel comfortable, those parts of myself that I've refused to see and maybe didn't have to because it wasn't being called out of me in a way that I cared enough to respond. So the difference between relationship is having that mirror, having that reflection coming back at you, as opposed to someone keeping you company along the way and being comfortable with it and just kind of, hey, this is who I am, where I am, and don't ruffle my feathers. Let's just do things that make us feel comfortable together.
Yeah, the power of relationship is so alchemical. It's like a big mirror where you get to refine and see yourself. And when you were sharing about high school and stuff, you haven't shared this in a long time, but it had me think about your balance between your masculine and feminine energies and how you're very balanced. Like, yes, you're very watery and fluid in your communication, but you're also extremely masculine, grounded, get shit done, show up for so many people. And I'm curious if you want to speak about your journey of balancing those energies. I particularly remembered a story of you like marrying yourself years ago. So yeah, anything you want to share about that?
Oh, there's a few roads that I want to go into on that. If I go back to when I was younger and balancing the masculine and feminine, again, I grew up in a very homophobic Latino culture. And then that extended into a lot of the culture growing up in the Northeast during the 70s and the 80s, where the fear of AIDS and again, just the masculine had to be so masculine, or else they weren't masculine at all. And it was hard because I had a lot of caring qualities about myself. I'm extremely empathic, as most of y'all know, who've been listening to the show. Very, very sensitive. And I think I came in wired extremely sensitive. And I think the environment, I know the environment that I grew up in honed that sensitivity to a place that was very unhealthy, where I became so hyper vigilant that I would lose myself in the energetic flow of others in the hopes that I would survive whatever I was feeling at the time. So as many of us do, as we become aware that we're empathic, it's not that we're empaths, it's not that we become empathic, we're all empaths. Empathy is a feeling. I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm lonely, I'm empathic. I just am. It's a feeling that comes through. But what do we do with that empathy? What do we do with our happiness? What do we do with our sadness? And it was about learning to hone it in such a way and have a relationship with it where I could allow for that very feminine part of myself. And again, I grew up with women in my life being the role models, not men. So I leaned into the strength of women and how they led and how their nurturance, but how they were bringing their masculine energy to get shit done, as you said, Courtney. And they had to, because the men in their lives, they show up with paychecks every once in a while.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Right? That's kind of nice. But it's again, I grew up looking up to the feminine, looking down to the masculine. But again, I lived in a world that was very masculine oriented. Again, growing up Latino, living in New York, growing up in very homophobic Texas and very Bible Belt. It was hard being sensitive because it was considered very feminine.
John, I'm going to interrupt for a sec. Isn't the Hispanic culture very, even with the men, very touchy-feely with each other? So that's kind of a contradiction, isn't it?
It's a contradiction, but it isn't, because it's not, the men don't touch each other in a sexual type of way. It's very manly type of hugging. You can go in and lean in, but the boundaries are they're really defined and you can feel them energetically. But it's just, again, it's just part of the culture we grew up in. What happened again is that, again, as I was growing up, I didn't quite know how I fit in, even though I played sports and did all these other things. Because of my sensitivity, I never quite fit in with all the guys, because like, I don't understand why boys or young men do some of the things that they do and hurt each other and talk crap about each other. And
Nobody gets that.
and then the violence that comes out of it. And then you get into sexual culture of what men believe that they deserve because they're men, and then the way that they treat women in the process. And that just never landed for me. That didn't make sense. So again, the pushing away of the masculine was a big aspect for me. So I allowed myself to lead a lot with my femininity, even though I was extremely heterosexual. And then at times, I grew up working in retail also. So I was around with a lot of gay men and women and all that. Everywhere that I worked was women oriented for some reason. Even this platform, it's 80% women who hang out here. So it's like, I'm just drawn to it. As a matter of fact, today I had a healing where we went back into the ancestry, and I'll get back to the question. We went back into the ancestry. My mom and my grandmother showed up powerfully in the session, and they were bringing up these things from my solar plexus and the heart and the throat that were coming in, and it wasn't mine. And the healer, the woman who was leading this was amazing. She's going to be on the show soon, y'all. So y'all, I'll tell you all about her later. She's like, all this is coming up and it's in your body, but it's not yours. It's the feminine lineage that's here to heal it, but they're giving it to you because they know that what you carry now, that this could heal the ancestral trauma that was carried all the way up to your mother, and part of it which has been passed to your daughters. And we went into, through the feminine that I was holding, that's so strong in me, and something popped through the other field. It was amazing. So again, leading into, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I just want to finish this story. Growing up, getting married, knowing I was having daughters, I love taking them shopping and all that. So very feminine aspects, nurturing aspects are very much alive in the way that I have lived my life. And I believe that also connects me to the water elements, very feminine, which also connects me to the psychic realms, very feminine. And I had to get to a place and in healing that, I'd say over the last 15 years, in some places, like you said, Courtney, about marrying myself in 15 years, where I had to bring back my masculine even more strongly. I had to go through periods where I could finally tap into that masculine, primal, destructive rage and let it flow through me without repercussions of where that rage would take me or what it would do. But I knew it wouldn't harm anybody, but I had to own that. I've gone through deep plant medicine ceremonies where, in one of my very first ayahuasca journeys, I reclaimed this primal sexual masculine energy. And it wasn't about an energy before that was hesitant with the feminine, because I didn't want to disrupt the feminine. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to upset her. I want to make her feel safe. And I got to reclaim that sexual masculine part of myself that I get to lead and be met in as well. And all this led up to a beautiful ceremony that took place just a few months before I met you, Courtney. And I think it's what allowed us to finally merge in this way. I was going through a deep integration, and something so strong was coming up around the masculine energy and then the feminine. There was a balance that was taking place, and it was all happening within me. I was letting go in ways that I've held on, how I had to be for the feminine in certain ways. I was letting go about how the masculine is supposed to be defined and what they're supposed to be. And I was taking the mask off of those characters that I thought had to be interpreted through me so that other people could receive me. And I got to the point where I finally it was so strong in me, I had to call a dear friend that I knew could hold this space for me. And it's Christine Larry, who's been on the show. She lives on the Big Island here in Hawaii. So Christine, you have to do me a favor. It's like, why? Anything, of course. Like, can you do it now? Can you hold space for me? It's like, yeah, what do you need? You've never asked for this. I've never asked anybody of anything like this. I said, will you marry me? It's like, not will you marry me, but will you hold space and repeat? I gave her the words for her to lead me in ceremony where I was marrying myself. That commitment to myself, that Heros Gamos, that unification of the masculine and the feminine, and devotion to both as one. And when that came through, it's like a floodgate of consciousness opened up within me as well. A sense of peace and relaxation, a surrendering of where I was trying to hold maybe as the water bearer on each side, the masculine on the one and the feminine on the other up the hill. And how they would get out of balance sometimes into a place of where that, yes, that reunification came through, Tara. You're right. And something in me shifted profoundly from that point. So thank you for asking.
Do you want to take a drink of water?
No, I'm good right now.
Okay.
I
Somebody
feel better.
somebody suggested the question of how long have you gone without talking to somebody?
I have no idea. about talking to somebody? That's such a good question. I have no idea. And I would ask, why are you asking that is the question. Because I talk a lot. Sometimes.
Does your talking, is that part of recognizing what's going on? Does the talking give you the path rather than you see the path, so you talk about it?
It comes up in different ways.
Okay.
So I can be in stillness and get revelations, if you will. But even that's a communication, right? Even that is a connection and intimacy with a source. I mean, intelligence surrounds us at all times. So to believe that we're in stillness, it's just different interpretations of what communication perhaps is coming through. My meditations as I sit in, or I don't know if I call them meditations, I drop into a ceremony and sometimes use a snuff called hape to ground me in, or maybe just light incense and a candle and just be still. And those connections, I feel like I have a direct line into God sometimes. But what's happening even in those communications is that I'm opening up into the awareness, and it's a practice. And I'm trying to practice it more and more and be aware. And it's a building up of an awareness muscle that when I'm talking to you, April, when I'm laying next to you, Courtney, when I'm on the show and there's someone I'm interviewing or someone that we're talking to, I'm realizing more and more every day, and I try to remember more and more every day. I know I'm talking to God when I'm talking to you, April, and when I'm talking to you, Courtney. I absolutely, there's no doubt whatsoever. And as I've been tapping into that and being of the practice of retraining my awareness to that truth, my heart is settling. I feel more open and vulnerable, even though there's still parts of me that get edgy sometimes and trigger to different things. But I'm finding that I'm falling into surrender like I've never experienced before. And because of that, I'm seeing the world in a different way than I've experienced it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's so beautiful, that teaching that you spoke to, that you're integrating and living, is seeing everybody as God. Right? And I just feel like the more we can all do that, the more that we remember and realize and live the unity that we are. And that is something that you really carry. Like you are embodied in unity consciousness, and you serve that in like so many beautiful ways. So just wanted to acknowledge.
And particularly
Mhm.
at this point in time, the chaos that lives all around us,
Mm.
that it makes that stillness within you so appealing.
Mm.
And that's, I don't know, that's, for me, I love that about you, because
Ah,
not when you're frustrated at me because I did something wrong, but just in general conversation, you do have that stillness and that focus in you, which
mm.
is great.
Mhm.
Somebody asked, when did you start feeling your gifts?
Ever since I was little, I knew that there was something there. It was confusing actually. For a while, because a lot of people in my family kind of held me as like the special one. It's like, oh, don't touch him, don't hurt him, be nice to him, treat him well. Everybody better take care of John. And I was the youngest of like 30 cousins also. So that had a lot to do with it as well. But I could feel, even as a very young boy, 3, 4 years old, this projection of how my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, different ways would hold me in a particular light. And it was confusing to me. And it also felt like a heavy burden. It's like, what expectations do you have on me? And please take those back simultaneously. I had a profound experience. Well, ever since I was little, and some of y'all can probably relate to this. I remember as early as 4 years old, when I see people arguing or things happening in my family, I just look at them with this bewildered, confused state of being. It's like, don't they know? It's so simple. It's like they just love each other. They don't, none of this would be happening. But it was such truth. It wasn't a hope. It was an absolute knowing. It's like if they just fall into love, all that would go away. They wouldn't be in their state of violence or confusion or chaos or whatever was happening around them. So that was always alive in me. Um, when I was 9 years old, we were living in Colombia and we lived in Bogota. And we received a phone call that my dad's father, my grandfather, had passed away. For some reason, my mother and my brother didn't travel with us right away. They waited a couple days to go. I forget what's happening. But we showed up and they had my grandfather's wake the day after he passed. They're like really quick over there for some reason. And my grandfather's house, it was like 3 houses put together, like 15 rooms, all these balconies. It was an impressive house that was passed down through a few generations. But we walked inside the house and all these people were there. My grandfather was pretty well known in the city that he lived in, which my father grew up in. There must have been hundreds of people there going in and out, in and out. I remember looking into his coffin and seeing him laying there, and he looked like I remembered him always. But I got to the point where I was just exhausted from all the energy that was running through, and I'd hung out the house so many times. I kept finding a room where I can lay down in. I just wanted to go to sleep. I was exhausted. And I kept going into all the rooms that are all filled with coats and jackets, or people were in there. And the only room that I found, the last room that I looked in, was my grandfather's bedroom. Nobody, nothing in there except his bed. Like they had made it like he'd gone out to breakfast, the housekeeper had made it like she did every day. And he'd gone out to breakfast and maybe he'd come back for his nap or whatever. But it was his room. And I laid down in it. It probably took me 2 seconds and I was passed out. And as I passed out, I felt this energy just swirling around me and starting to lift me up. And I saw these royal blue, purple colors all around me. And this light came in. The second the light came in, it was so overwhelming with love that I was sobbing from the love that was pouring in from this energy that was swirling all around me, and it felt like it was lifting me up off the bed. And I just remember just being in awe at 9 years old, just in awe. And again, seeing these colors, feeling this energy. And after a little while, I knew it was Mother Mary. No doubt whatsoever. It was Mary. To this day, as I speak about it, it feels like I'm right there and she's right here with me, which she is actually. And as she was holding me and she was swirling around and I'm sobbing, I heard, "You'll always be taken care of. You're always protected. I am always with you." And then it put me down. The energy left. And I really fell asleep and got up a few hours later. And that changed me forever. And from then on, I knew I'd always be okay. I always am okay. That benevolence, that love that surrounds me, it's powerful and alive. And I know it surrounds everyone that I love and care for. I know that energy comes into these calls on Beyond the Ordinary and Living in the Extraordinary in the membership. She's definitely been a stepping stone for the acceleration of my consciousness and my connection into other realms. And so that was a profound experience. And then in my late 30s, early 40s is when I considered the dam broke open, through these amazing processes that came in that were facilitated, and an energetic release of density that I was holding in my consciousness and in my physical body because of the experiences, the memories of that. Once that broke open, it's like the waves of my psychic connection, my connection to the ethereal, guides coming in lucid dreams, teaching me, guiding me to different places, and that just seems to continue in one way or another in my life on a continuous basis. And as wonderful as those connections are, I'm finding that living life, being in relationship, being in friendship with you, April, being in community with all of y'all, that y'all are my biggest teachers and inspirations, and the purpose of why I'm here, so that we can share love of one another and grow together and show each other the way home to each other.
I was going to ask you something, but I think I have to modify the question. Someone wanted me to ask, if you could not do this or something similar, what would you choose to do? And I think that I don't think it matters what you do, because you're always going to be doing this, even if you're selling shoes.
I love that you said that. I love that you said, I became aware as the patterns were coming up, and I forget who I was working with, and something came through, the awareness came through, is that I've been translating all my life. I've been taking one language and putting it into another one and explaining that language so that someone would get it. So my parents were Colombian immigrants who decided not to learn English until they were almost 50 years in the country.
Wow.
So from as early as probably 5 years old, and my brother was 4 years older than me, but when my brother wasn't around, I was absolutely the translator, and we'd go places and into stores or asking for directions. And a lot of times my brother wouldn't want to ask because he was shy, and it's like, oh, you're the little one, you're the cute one, they'll give you answers, right? And so I was translating for my parents. Amazing. Then in the work that I did, I was translating complex contracts for people who didn't understand them. In the business that I owned in corporate before it, I was taking, again, representations how people were protected and where they weren't. And because language barriers, or because the language is so complex, I had the ability to translate so that people can understand what they were receiving, what that negotiation or contract was. And I feel that I'm doing the same thing here. I have the opportunity to go, and I call it very shamanic, because isn't that what, and I'm not calling myself a shaman. I don't want to put that glass ceiling over myself either, because we're so many things. But there is a shamanic aspect of me that comes through that can go up, get information, bring it down, and translate it for our hearts to be in relationship with it, to see what's being created from the intelligence that's dancing with us in the moment. So translator and diplomat is another role also. It's, my parents used to fight all the time, cats and dogs. And my godfather, again, from a very young age, one of my nicknames was the diplomat. From a young age, my godfather named me the diplomat. So it seems like these roles, or these ways that I'm wired, seem to be expressed through me in ways that, you're right, no matter what I'm doing, I'm gonna be doing an aspect of that. But if I wasn't gonna be doing what I'm doing, I love designing shit. I'd be a web designer, interior designer, an architect, playing with colors and aesthetics and all that. Courtney knows. I get so into that.
Courtney, I'm going to ask you a question then. Does he let you do anything around the house, or is it all him?
He does. He does. We co-create.
Courtney's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Courtney's one of the first.
Okay, let's do another like silly question. What's your favorite color?
Black. Because
Really?
it encompasses everything.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
love all the colors. I
I
love
know
it's
Love
you
the
do.
silly question.
I know you do.
yeah.
How about your favorite food?
I love good food. If you're gonna ask me what good music is, it's like, good music is good music. Good food is good food. It's like I
Okay.
used to tell you, may perhaps I tell you in the past that I love desserts and I love cakes, but then it changes to something else. It's
If you
yeah.
had to get up from your chair right now and go make some food and you had all of the ingredients for anything, what would you make right now?
Oh my God, because you're with me, because you're asking me that question, I'd have to make us some bread pudding,
Oh, good
right?
man.
You and me
Good
both.
man.
Here's some bread pudding. And
Okay, and then one other little question. What's your favorite book of all time?
oh, that's hard. There's so many great books. You know, a book that's resonated with me, it's someone gifted it to me from listening to the show. And they felt this energy of a Christed consciousness that was awakened within the community and in what I was sharing. And she sent me this book, and I cannot remember her name. If you're listening right now, please remind me who you are. It's in the book. But I was so grateful when I received it in the mail. It immediately lit up for me. And it's a book called Love Without End, Jesus Speaks. Um, and when I opened that book and I read through it, it's this artist who is supposed to do a portrait of Jesus. She's guided to, like, a message keeps coming through. She's like, there's no way I can do a portrait. I'm a historical artist on big canvas. Unless I have historical context and facts, I can't paint you. And so all these synchronicities start coming in where she was starting. Glinda Green, thank you so much, Mer. Um, all these synchronicities started showing up for her to start painting the backgrounds, and very specific as to the type of sheep that only grew up in Jerusalem through that time or whatever. It's just, it was very specific. But then she didn't have context for Jesus. And then one day this bright light shows up in her living room, almost the same way that I described Mary showing up for me, where it's so overwhelming you can't help but to break down and cry. And Jesus appeared, and he let her know that he was going to sit for her while she painted him. And as she was going through the months of painting, she would get into conversation with him and ask him questions about life, about humanity, about creation, about, the 12 commandments, just about all these very interesting topics. And in the book, her questions are regular font, his responses are in italics. And when I read the book, wherever he spoke, I couldn't poke a hole in any of his answers. They were so direct and so filled with truth and just inspired something in me. And I really felt that that book was very impactful for me in understanding and receiving the codes of that Christ consciousness and feeling and reading such truths revealed in the way that I received them. And it was just so impactful and so beautiful. And I felt a connection to that Christ energy, to Glenda, who wrote the book, to Joshua as he was speaking. Um, yeah, it was impactful. It was beautiful. And it was even more so impactful for me because of the way that the book came into my life, the gift and how it was passed forward. So that was amazing.
You know what we should do? Well, on the membership anyway, we should post the books that we read that impact us that way so we can share them.
Yeah,
Hear
absolutely.
that, guys? Do it.
Do it. Start posting membership, people. Can we tell people that are not on, well, can we tell everybody on the call about the membership?
Yeah, let's do. John, I'm going to start. John has a membership group that if you haven't heard of it, I don't know why. It's called Living in the Extraordinary, and it's a smallish group right now. We started out big, and people wander in and wander back, and once a week get on and have conversation with John, and he usually has um a focus, something he's been thinking about during the week, and there's a lot of conversation between the John and the people that are in the membership, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's deep, and sometimes we solve people's problems on the show, because they come and say, oh, this is happening, and then everybody, it's like a healing. We
Mm.
you kind of bring everybody surrounding that person and help them. And it's it's for me, it's fun. I don't have to do the hard work. I just, type up the email afterward. But it it's it's wonderful to watch the members love one another.
Mm-hmm.
Even out of the outside of the calls, the posting on Facebook, hey, this is going on, and then everybody jumps in, and it's a really loving group. It's
It's
yeah.
an amazing group, and it was inspired quite a few years ago. I heard very strongly, Tara, thank you. Heard very strongly from guidance that it was time to start guiding private sessions again. And when I started Beyond the Ordinary, I wasn't focused on private sessions or any other work outside of the show. I mean, I was 100% involved in that, and it was extremely rare for me to promote anything outside of it. But the guidance came in strongly. It's time to start offering private sessions again. But I knew I had to structure it in a different way. And the way that I structured it wasn't going to be accessible to everybody. First, because I only had a limited amount of time, because I'm doing the show and other things as well, which takes a good amount of energy. It's amazing, but it takes a good amount of energy. And two, because the pricing just wasn't going to be there. If I'm going to do sessions with someone, I want to go in deep. I just don't want to give you a reading and just kind of wipe my hands and go off on your own, even though some of those are amazing, but that's just not the way that I work. As Courtney knows, I like that intimacy. I like to go in. It's like, let's get in the mud together, and create something possible on the other side of it. So those are monthly retainers, and again, not everybody can necessarily afford that. And again, I could only do like 4 of those a week maximum, because it takes a lot of energy. And so when the guides I'll call them, my higher self, whoever was informing me on the sessions, like, yeah, but what do we do? They're like, start a membership and make it accessible for people who can't afford it or don't have time to go into sessions in that way. And they can choose and make it super affordable, but show up. And so it's only $39 a month. We're on the call 90 minutes every Monday,
Or more.
sometimes more. It's typically 90 minutes. But we just keep rolling through it. And I found that the membership has, I always think I'm doing it because I am serving community. I'm being called to do something, or I want to share with other people what I have, or the information that I'm getting, or how I'm growing, and how they can use those same tools to grow within themselves, and also tap into knowing within me as I channel and intuit into you. But dang it, it always comes back around. It's the same with Beyond the Ordinary. I thought I was setting it up so that I can share everything what I was receiving from my overflow with everybody, because everybody deserves to feel these aspects of liberation as I do, as I continue to fall into it. And yeah, that was the intention. But in hindsight, I keep looking at it, and I know that all this was created for me. The growth that I've been engendered by, the community that I get to feel and love and be loved by, the relationships that have come into my life because of the intimacy with the speakers, and where all these different things are guiding me. It's been profound. So I love that aspect of understanding and learning through experience, that anywhere that I'm of service, I know that service is being of service to me. And I can't help but to grow from my sharing. And so it's beautiful. And from that understanding, and with Beyond the Ordinary and in the membership, which I hope y'all join if you're not part of it. It's so much fun. And you're right, the community and the family that's there is so amazing. I lost my thread. I understand that there's something that's evolving through me that, or I'm growing, that there's more to share. I'm understanding more of the impact that I have because I get to share on larger platforms. But it's also helped me understand the impact that we all have because it's profound what I say. The impact that Courtney has with her community, the impact that you have, April, with all the people you interact with. It's the impact that even those who feel the most alone on some of these calls, the impact that they have through their beingness, how powerful, really, truly powerful they are, and how a thought can put into motion a ripple effect that can have a tsunami effect on others about their understanding. It's, for me, I'm trying to wake up to who I know I am, but deny myself to be. But at the same time, I'm here to do that for y'all also, because y'all are amazing. Y'all are powerful. And frankly, it's time. It's time. We've said it's time before, but it is time, y'all. Stop denying the divinity within yourself. To stop playing around and pretending because someone told me I wasn't good enough, or I can't be that, or someone hurt my feelings, or my mom wasn't a good mom, or society just sucks. Start taking back your power. Start awakening your heart and your love and allow it to be the expression that you lead with. Create the world you want to live in. Please. Please. And as you do that, you can't help but to create the world that the world wants to live in. And I know that's why I'm here. I'm here to remind myself of that within myself. And I'm here to remind you of that as best I can, but only you can do it for you. But I'm hopefully here to sometimes gently remind you of that, and sometimes just shake you awake if necessary, if you allow me.
I have to say something about the membership. When you were talking about it, one of the members at the end of the show always says love and blessings.
Oh,
And-
no, forget about that. No, yeah.
And if for some reason she's not there, we all kind of wait and somebody else will say it, but we wait for that. And it's a little thing, but it draws us all together at the end and reminds us why we're there. And that's one of the things that I really like about the membership group is that all of the members are coming together with their different strengths and melding them together so that they're all stronger individually the way they are as a group.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
and
my God. Well, that's demonstrative of the power of the Awaken Collective, right? It's like we start riding that wave. It's like, it's just truth rolling. It's what comes through. It's just like, and it's like, yes. And prompts to Courtney. Courtney does, it's funny. I was thinking about you today. I haven't shared this with you yet. We all have our different ways of inspiring people, and there's a divinity that flows through us that we somehow have this talent, and it like draws people to you. And for some, it could be cooking. For some people, it could be, you can be a school teacher. For other people, it's whatever vocation you're doing. For me, it's speaking, and I put me on stage and I just light up. I can go on forever in different ways. But Courtney, your gift of song, and I love it because when you get into song, the judgment, when you start getting into your flow, the judgment goes away not that you carry a lot of judgment, but the mind relaxes. You tap into, it's like this shamanic thing that where you tap into, you plug in like your soul amp into that universal consciousness. And what flows through you is just this emanation of love that these people just get drawn to. It's like, oh my God. And I witness people in tears, or other people start giving themselves permission to play in the way that they haven't before. There's a freedom that gets engendered. And I've seen it from little kids into, grandfathers and grandmothers, just something in them awaken through that essence. And we all have that. And it's when we can surrender into allowing that gift that fills us up so much, and us to express that gift from our overflow innocently with no expectation, but the divine that runs through. It is a spectacle of awe and wonder to be in receptivity of. It's absolutely amazing. And we all have it, but some of us are more expressive of it. And it's just, again, own our love more. And then if you're looking for your purpose, anyone, your purpose is your next breath. And what are you going to do with it? And if you want more of your purpose in that, as you inhale, who can you think of and love? And as you exhale, who can you be in the action of loving? As you remember to do that. And from that, everything else will unfold. I promise you, I know so.
Okay, from another play question. What are the top 3 places that you'd like to visit that you haven't been to before? I think there's at least 3, right?
Oh, I have to go to Israel. I have to. It's a soul calling. It's been in my heart for over 10 years easily, probably longer. And Israel is, I can't even explain it. It's beyond me. There's a recognition, there's a remembers, there's an activation, there's a healing, there's a reclamation, there's a reinterpretation and a resurrection, if you will, in Israel for me. I feel it strongly. I feel it also connected a lot to the grid work that somehow I'm wired for. I'm supposed to be on those lands. I don't have to be, but there's definitely something there. It's profound. I have to go. I want to do the safari trip, going down into just the intelligence of nature and the primal in that way, going back down into perhaps what may have been the origin in different ways, but being with the land, the animals, the wellness, the integrity of nature in that way. There's a deep calling. It feels very shamanic as well in different ways. I've felt that ever since I was little. I knew I had to be there. And top 3, where's the third one? I don't know. There's lots of different places to go. From there, it all feels, and not that those don't feel fun, but those are really like soul callings that are alive in me right now.
What was the second one? Can you say it again?
Africa, and going down
Africa.
into Southern Africa, going into Safari Land, in the different places. I don't know specifically quite where, in those places, but I don't know, she'll call, but I definitely feel it strongly. And the third one doesn't feel necessarily about the place, but it feels more about the connection and community with others. And I don't think that one's necessarily has identified herself yet as the land, as the place to be, but I feel her stirring. I feel the land's alive, and maybe it's just waiting for me to acclimate and to grow to a place where I can be in receptivity of his intelligence and consciousness, or her wells and waters. I don't know. I feel it. It's just, I can't define it quite just yet. And yes, the Bushmen, amazing, absolutely. Uluru is a place that calls. That I'm intrigued by the Aboriginals, and all that. I'd love to go down to Tonga and swim with the whales and be up close and personal with them. That sounds amazing, but yeah, we'll see what else appears.
Okay. When are you going to write your book?
That is a good question. I've been asking that question for like 7 years.
I know.
And I had a session with Stephanie Banks, who's
Mm.
been on the show. She's an amazing channel, and she channels the consciousness of whatever you tap into. So I asked her to tap into the book. And the book was very honorary. It was very, had an attitude. It's like, don't worry about, I'll let you know when I'm ready. I told you about that one, right, Courtney? It was funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I'm ready. It's none of your business.
John gets slapped down.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. Courtney, I haven't let you ask any questions. Do you have any questions that you want to ask him in public?
Well, I've just been enjoying the funny questions and been loving your questions. And let's see.
We can take live Q&A in a little bit also. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I feel like I'll ask a question and then maybe we can go into live Q&A. But well, okay. So you work hard and you play hard. And I'm curious if you have any wisdom to share just around balance, around balancing service and life.
Mm,
Mhm.
that's such a great question. Because I tend to be very flowy in my consciousness. And you've seen me, we've been through cycles where I'm barely working at all. Like April's taking care of the fort, and we're traveling through Europe and we're doing other things, and I'll just kind of show up and go off and kind of do things. And it tends to be very flowy and everything's okay. But then you've also seen me just really hunker down and focus in, and like very direct in creation. And I've learned to give myself permission to be in both and not feel guilty about either end of it, to really bring balance to it. I'm so blessed to have someone like you in my life to remind me when I'm maybe leaning too much in one direction. Because we do, the reflection that we receive from the people that love us, there's wisdom when we're pushing too hard or not enough in either direction. And then there's people in your life who will tell you, oh, you're working too hard, you're doing too much, but they don't understand the nature of what you're doing. So it's like really feeling into if someone's projecting because they have a fear for you or they want you to be a certain way, or if there's really a matching resonance where they can really understand what you're creating and why, and also why you're not creating at the time, or why you're not in a particular flow, and why you need that recharge, and it not having to look in a very structured way for the sake of somebody else's comfort. My bookkeeper, my CPA, and the speakers will even laugh at me. They're like, well, how are your finances right now? Or how many sales did you have? I don't know. I'll look at my finances maybe twice a year. I'll kind of glimpse them. It's like, okay, everything's cool or everything's not. Adjust.
I don't think you could do. I don't think you could do what you do if you were looking at your finances every day.
I can't.
You'd be all tied
Some
up.
people are very focused on that, and it's just they have such amazing intelligence and it works for them. But for me, I had to give myself a lot of freedom of judgment.
I love that you
Freedom.
spoke to not having guilt. You know, you're not guilty for working. You're not guilty when you're relaxing. And I see that, and not judging yourself either. There's like just like a loving acceptance and a kind of like, it is what it is, and you allow yourself to be in both, seasons when they're called for. Yeah, amazing.
I try to do that well. It's and of course, I mean, we get into extreme ends of it.
Mm.
But I find that I typically land back in a place that that feels appropriate for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only place that I can go. It's got to feel appropriate for me first and foremost. And from that, I can show up authentically for where I'm being called to show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in alignment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, April? Should we go into Q&A? Do you have any other questions?
I have one more little question. What do you do when you get angry? How do you calm yourself back down?
Mm.
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a
It
trick
depends.
question.
I said that's a good question. It's a trick
Okay.
question. Um, it depends. I have to allow myself to. So again, this goes back into the way that we learn as children to process our emotions. And again, when we're little and as we're growing up, the influences in our life is like, don't cry too much. Boys don't cry. It's like, so I start crying and I stop my emotions short. Maybe they stop at my knees. Or I'm, 3-year-old throwing a tantrum. You can't throw a tantrum. You're being bad. Go sit in the corner. Go collect yourself. And so those emotions come up, but they don't process through my body. Maybe they stop at my root chakra right there or my pelvic area. It's like the emotions stay trapped. Grief can't be sad, can't be, oh, you got to feel better. Let me make you feel better. Don't be sad. We don't want to see you sad. And it stops at the heart. Or whatever any of those emotions are. Sexual energy. You can't be sexual. You can't be that as a child. That's wrong. And so you stop that at your ankles. And so emotions, the way that I've grown up, and God bless my parents, they're amazing. But I'm sure I did that to my daughters as well. So again, none of us are perfect in this. But because of the way we're enculturated, we are programmed that those emotions don't really get to flow all the way through our body and out of our body to go through the full process of being felt and released. And as we store them, we store illness, we store regret, we store confusion, we store rigid ways of being to protect and hold what we feel that we can't express, because if we express that, then we're not accepted, we're not loved, we don't belong, we're not safe for society. And so what I've learned along my many years, and it's still a practice, but as things come up, and sometimes it happens very quickly, where an emotion will come in and flow through me very fast. It's like, okay, I got it. My God, I'm sorry, or this happened. Sometimes if I'm in frustration, I was frustrated last night, and that frustration was coming through me, and I had to let it was slowly running through me. I'm finding more and more that whenever that frustration or anger comes in, that it's less and less about the person that I think it's initiated it as my mirror, and it's more about what's going on in me. And so as those emotions roll through and I start questions like, okay, well, what is it about me that's having this experience, that's choosing this reaction, that got prompted into this wave that throws me into anger or frustration or confusion or whatever it is. And as I be with that simultaneously of allowing it to flow through me, that it transmutes in a way that it doesn't store in my body, where I'm not harboring resentment or anger towards whatever it was that stimulated that chemical in me. I stimulated, but it reminded me of the stimulation. And it's a practice. Walking out in nature, exercising. We have a pool in the back. I love jumping in the pool. And sometimes just allowing myself to be angry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. I don't have to judge myself for it being wrong. And I don't have to be afraid that those that I love are going to leave me if they feel that coming from me, which was a big thing when I was a kid. I couldn't feel that, because if they felt that, then it wouldn't be safe. They'd leave. Let me be something for them so that they can feel comfortable, so that I can feel safe. And, you know, every day I learn more and more that that's not true. That authentic love is always safe. And that I can be held in all of it now. If I get out of balance with it, authentic love will put my ass back into place as well. Oh, and I so appreciate that, right? I so respect that. But that just demonstrates the respect of reciprocal relating. That's possible, where we can all hold each other in the aggression that has to come through. We're seeing it in humanity right now. It has to come through. How can we hold humanity in that compassionate love and still hold it in discernment, saying, this is where I'm guiding you back home to? And being the pillar, the steady one, that love's going to be taken away because this is coming up. But being that anchor is like, hey, this is where we're landing, and come regulate. Let me be a regulation point for you so that you can remember. So that you can remember that the anger, the frustration that you feel is just where you separate yourself, where you're looking for love and don't know how to find it. Where you're trying to express your need for it, but no one understands it. And to allow it to come back into a balance by being held in the awareness of the grace that truly is available to all of us.
Well, I think I'm going to start promoting some people to panelists so that they can ask you questions.
Awesome.
And the first one is Angela. Can you unmute yourself, Angela?
Yes, I did.
Yay.
Angela, did you want to ask your question, Angela?
Did we lose
Oh
her?
no, Angela fell off.
And start video. Sorry about that. My question is, and thank you for this. This is so lovely. My question is there, this is how it feels for me, that there are waves in your life where there are times where you feel passionate about what you do in your life and you feel the momentum of that. And then there are times where I don't. And how do you find your way back into finding a direction with a passionate aspect of your life?
That's such a great question. And I can so relate. I've had an inspiration for something that's really been led from my heart that probably started about 6 months ago. And as far as a work, passion project and all that, I haven't felt anything like that since I started Beyond the Ordinary 11 years ago. It's like I'd started some things and they were kind of exciting and they were okay, but it was like, But the passion that's streaming through this, the alignment that's coming in, I felt an aliveness as far as building something and from a work community perspective in a way that I'd forgotten existed. And during those 10 years, I had a lot of inspiration. I saw glimpses of this coming through. Those psychic hits that you know you're building something and it's coming, but it's not here yet. And so many of y'all on this call you're so visionary. You can see 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years down the line, and we feel like it's happening now. But we have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Because the vision sees it, but the construct of time has to catch up. And there's something within us that's maturing to meet that creation in the full potential of what it can become. And during those times, I'm blessed with travel. I'm blessed with exploration in different ways, but we get to travel and explore no matter where we are within ourselves. So there's a deepening and connection of intimacy, of sitting in stillness. That's tremendous. It's like, how can we be so still that we can feel the inspiration of the divine running through us. In other words, the awe of it. To be so still, to believe that what I'm creating isn't my source of my happiness, of my joy, but realize that the inspiration of that joy and that happiness is what's creating that thing that will be a mirror for what I'm holding with it myself. And to just remind yourself of that from time to time, to kind of give you the nudges to go forward. For you, I feel very, if you don't mind, I'll articulate this, but I feel there's also a dietary component also, that there's something about a dietary restriction or particular ways of eating that if you were to change it up a little bit, it may give you some more vitality. I feel that very strongly in you. So I don't know if you're vegan, eat enough meat, low in iron. If you can, if sun would be something that would be good for you as well. To be nourished in that way, to reactivate that chi in you. Would be wonderful. Exercise, Tai Chi, speaking of Chi, would be wonderful to you start moving and getting into a sensual practice. Not that it has to be sexual, but where you start feeling your body again. Go walk out in nature, hug a tree, jump in the creek, reinvigorate, have fun. Take your cats with you. Like, break the mold of wherever you've been in habit, and dare to be bold. Dare to be bold, because we're taught not to be bold. We're taught to be careful. Be careful crossing the street. Be careful. Don't upset your teacher. Be careful. Don't be too much for other people. And don't you wish that we had parents that told us to be bold? That would say, go out and be bold in the world. Go take chances. Go make mistakes. Go try those drugs. Go explore your sexuality. Be bold. I'm inviting you to be bold.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Kim
Great
Kim just said, "Dare to be bold" is a great title for your book.
I love that. Nice, Kim.
Well, we don't have any other hands raised. Nobody wants to talk to you?
I don't blame him. I get it.
We've got Joe in here.
Barbara's on here also.
Oh, there's Barbara. Where's Joe?
I can see him on my screen. Joe, you want to pop on?
Now I got it. It
Hey,
took
Joe.
a
Good to
minute.
see you.
Hi, April. Hi, John.
Long time no
When
see.
you're
Joe,
considering
how are
coming
you?
back to the membership group, this is a wonderful way to start.
Thank you.
I've been wondering for about 3 months, but the question I really have is what you were talking about in the beginning about the strongly dominant side. Specifically, I want to ask you, is there a way I can get some guidelines on that marriage ceremony? Bells went off when I heard you talking about that.
I wish there was a script for it, to be honest with you, Joe. And I can give some things that may be beneficial. I found that this really started coming in because there was an invitation also to step outside of the ego that I wasn't aware of, perhaps, that I was holding. And ego also means the way that I was expecting others to show up, or the ways that I was hoping others and didn't really believe that they could. And of course, those are aspects of how I believe how I can show up for myself, or how I don't believe that I can. And I had to allow this integration of what I believed, of anything that I wanted to make me feel whole, to fall away, even my connection to spirit, my connection to God, and how that would appear, how that would fulfill me. If I just have this, then I'll be okay. That's still a safety mechanism. And to surrender into a plasmic type of state where I can just be in the flow and knowing that the tide that is taking me to the exact place that I'm supposed to be can only take me there in reference to me. So it's a co-creation, but I have to surrender into it. And the tide, the flow of the tide is going to take me organically in relationship to me. And this merging that happens, but I have to surrender to it. I can't swim against it. And I can't really try to swim ahead of it either, trying to create something, because then I'll go off course. And so part of the feminine and masculine was releasing control, releasing the ways that it had to show up, releasing the way that it had to do in order to get, releasing the way that God was supposed to show up for me so that I could feel good, so that I can feel received, so that if nobody else understands me, at least God does. And then going into the place of releasing in the feminine aspect where I felt like community had to save me, and if community held me, and that can be community in relationship to an intimate other, or to a group. And to surrender all of that and releasing all those things again from being my source and my supply. And getting to a place of visceral embodied understanding of that connection within myself, where I can be the masculine within myself just for the sake of being masculine, where I can be the feminine with myself just for the sake of the feminine, but without it needing to do anything. And when I finally got to that place, there was the centering that took place. There was a merging, if you will, this entanglement of a Kundalini activation, where the two become three in connection with divinity. And from that place, it felt like my energy within myself was finally at a place where I could devote to that truth. It's a devotion that had to come in that I was ready to fully commit to. Because I wasn't ready to fully commit to it before, else it would have landed. I was still playing the energetic field. But when that landed and I said yes, with every cell of my being, that marriage, something different landed. But I had to be a complete, unwavering yes. And it's actually interesting because that aspect of devotion, the very first day I met Courtney was in my house in a ceremony in Hawaii, and she was amazing in the instant. But we were in ceremony, and in that ceremony, I was asked as I was taking sacrament, you're aware if you take this, only take this if you're ready to be in devotion. Only receive the sacrament if you were going to commit to what I'm about to give to you. Because if you're not ready to commit to that, then don't receive me. Don't take me. I'm for somebody else. And I said yes. During that ceremony, I committed during that ceremony. I felt that that was really a conscious experience that I was having, that was articulating in a way that this marriage could finally take place. This is a more in-depth type of practice that I don't think I can bullet point out for anybody. We'd have to go into session work intimately, because this is preparing for one of the most sacred ceremonies, if not the most sacred ceremony you will ever participate in. But once you go through that, you'll never be the same. You are really functioning from another place. I hope that helped a little bit.
Well, what you just did is give me a starting point.
And some seed, and we're seeding in the field.
You
right?
gave me what I was asking for, the basics.
Good. It's wonderful
I
to
can
see.
take it from there.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Thank you, brother. Blessings to you, and thank you for always showing up, doing your work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
Can we call on Barbara now? Barbara.
Yes, you may. I am being led to create my own marriage ceremony as well. So my intention right in this moment is to be ready to be preparing for that. So when I'm ready, I'll find that. I think it's going to be half a day to do that with myself. But my question is, John, I would love to know, what is your day like? Like, what's your daily practice for spiritual, physical, food? I've seen you eat really healthy, but maybe go over that as well. Just kind of like the day in the life of John Burgos.
I love that you asked that. Oh my God, Courtney has an interpretation of it. I have another. I'm sure. Again, I go into different flows depending on where I am emotionally, energetically. Um, Courtney and I we've been living together, for like 10 months now. Really pretty much since we got together in December, a year and a half ago, but that's a whole nother story. Before, Courtney was like waking up, go to the gym, go down to the ocean, meditate with my cup of coffee, come to the house, have a protein, take my supplements, um, take a shower and get into work. And that was exercise, and meditation is always a connection for me. Exercise is meditation for me, and where I get to move it in and do it and through my physical expression. Dropping into nature again, I had the luxury of this beautiful space that was 10 minutes from my house that I would go meditate at every morning. And it was wonderful to be with the elements and see the sun rising and the ocean waves crashing in. And that was really nurturing for a long time. And again, I got into that flow. But then another inspiration came into my life, and then Courtney was there. And so my routines were changed. I wasn't working as hard. I'd lay in bed longer and indulge in just the warmth of each other and that connection that was activating something in my heart that the rigidity of the gym and the ocean couldn't even get close to providing. Right. And so to be in the swirl of the assimilation that was available there was wonderful. Then we do a lot of traveling, and so those patterns get disrupted, and we go into different ways of discovering. But again, over the years, had you told me 7 years ago that I would skip 2 days in a row of working out, I would have told you were crazy. Skipping one day would have been like, oh my God, something's really wrong. 2 days in a row, there's no way. But I've gotten into a flow in the consciousness, and it's an aspect of self-love and also listening to our bodies, listening to my body and listening to guidance. The body has become such a wise guide for me, and how I tapping into my yeses and my nos of listening, and when my rest and not forcing, not holding back so much either. And so stepping away from the rigidity of the exercise, the way that I have to eat to stay healthy and stay vital, was also really important to let go of. So I know when I'm in a flow of certain things, and I'll continue those as long as they feel right. But if I'm called to sleep in and not work out that morning, or if I can't work until 11 o'clock, or if I have to get up early and start working at 5 o'clock in the morning and skip the gym, or if I'm guided to do my workouts rigidly for a while, there's just an intelligence that seems to be working with me, that's informing me, and that's loving me through that process. And again, a big aspect of that is that I am learning how to judge myself less and less, how to make myself wrong because something that had happened, or because I was supposed to be responsible for something or something else, or how I'm letting my body down because I don't look so good in the mirror like I did 2 years ago or whatever. And it's a very humbling and innocent and vulnerable and an empowering way. And so I would
Mhm.
recommend for anybody to trust yourself in the process. You know, I was going through a period where I was gobbling down chocolate all the time. It's like I had chocolate on a continuous basis, like where I was aware. Oh, I have a vitamin E deficiency. I bet you when I started taking vitamin E, and this is intuitive. I told you that, Courtney. It's like I think I need vitamin E, and I started taking vitamin E. Within 3 weeks, I've been barely eating any chocolate. It's like it sits in the fridge. When it was gone daily, it could sit there for 2 weeks. It's not a thing. So again, our bodies are so intelligent, and we can really listen. And if we're off balance or we're feeling tired all the time, that's when we should stop and ask our bodies um, maybe what it needs. And if we don't know the answer and we can't hear it, to reach out to an expert, whether it's an intuitive that you work with, whether it's doctor who you really trust who can do the proper test, and to listen to consciousness outside of yourself as well, because none of us are here to do any of this solo. We all are growing together. And it's when we realize that we can really start engendering the abundance that we truly live in. We get so caught up in lack mentality. My body's not this, my health isn't this, my consciousness isn't this. But we really just pause and see how much we actually have in our lives. It's amazing. If we were to tip the scales of abundance and scarcity in our lives and really took stock, your abundance would be up here. I guarantee you. Focus on that, and everything else will inform. I know I didn't ask your question necessarily directly, but there wasn't just a pinpoint answer for it.
I got it, though. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone else did too. And we'll just hope that Carlotta's here or we'll hear this about chocolate just in case. Just in case. I know she eats the healthy stuff. I don't, but I will check out the vitamin E for me just in case.
Nice. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All of y'all, Barbara is part of the membership as well. Joe used to be on the membership and he went out on a solo journey, which was so good for Joe. I could feel it, which was amazing. And again, it's the consciousness, the people that show up in the membership. They're amazing. I just love this group, and I want to invite each and every one of you who aren't there, join the membership. Again, we meet every week. It's typically 90 minutes. A lot of times I'll just go in and start channeling, if you will, information that's coming through. I share a lot of my personal experiences. I'm going through plant medicine ceremonies, or guides are coming in as a service to share what else is available. And we do a lot of Q&A as well. So the membership is a blessing, and the people there, the community there, the angels there are absolutely phenomenal and such a support, and we're all guides for one another. And we price it, it's only $39 a month, and you can cancel anytime. We want to make it really generous. We meet every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. I think I've only missed 2 calls in the 4 years that we've done that because I was traveling or something happened. And we have guest speakers from time to time to do live calls. So live readings, just boom, 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 without interruption. So it's a great community. And
I have to jump in, John. I think one of the things, I mean, obviously it's your creation, but so often in our everyday circles of the people that we know, the people that we care about, you can't really talk to them about stuff that we talk about there. And it's a community that comes together with similar thoughts, similar feelings, and yet together they support each other. And I know that they've gone on trips together, and they go out and meet each other and stuff. And I mean, that's not why it was created, but wow, it's a great part of being in the membership is having those people that you see here on the internet, and developing a relationship that's strong enough to say, hey, let's get together. I'm going to be coming in toward, wherever you are. Let's meet. And
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to say about that. One about getting together in person, and I'll save that for the back end of what I want to share. But in Beyond the Ordinary, I really take full ownership of it, and I feel I strongly have to, because this is an invitation for you to take ownership of the consciousness that you're seating here. This is a place where I raise you in consciousness into a vibrational accord where you can meet yourself in that elevated state of awareness of your own divinity, and that you express through there. And anything that may be siphoning any energy from that, we bring into alignment from an energetic perspective. Again, there's an alchemy that happens where as we gather together, we're raising each other up, and we meet each other from that place in mastery with one another. Mastery. And that is what you've accumulated up to now. Those are your experiences of love, of a high vibrational state, and the truth of the love that you be and the divinity that you are, where this is a place that can be expressed and assimilated and the strength gathered so that you can go out into the world and feel even more confident in that unique expression, more knowing of who you are in case you ever forgot, and in the co-creation and the playfulness of what can arise as you remember who you're walking with, who you're creating with, who you actually be. So that's really the essence of living in the extraordinary. It's a powerful container. You will be accelerated. You will be met in higher consciousness. And a lot of times I won't play with the lower consciousness. I've upset a couple of people about it because I wouldn't meet them there, and kept insisting on their higher state. But it was always in love, and we've always come back to love each other. It wasn't a place of separation. But sometimes we have to risk love in order to become even greater love, so that we can see each other through the illusions that would want to tell us that we can't be something, or that we're too afraid if we become that something might happen. And that's not it. Gathering together, Courtney and I actually, when Courtney and I first got together, there was just something in this, like, we've got to create something together. We got to create this journey together for community. And we gathered, and there's 12 of us, right, Courtney? I forget the number. There's 12. Most people from the membership that met us in Northern California, and it was so wonderful for all of us to gather. When we sat in medicine ceremony in ayahuasca retreat with facilitator that Courtney was really good friends with. It was amazing. And then Courtney, what was your experience being in that container, being around so many people excited to see one another?
Well, it was so beautiful to feel the depth of intimacy and love that was already between everyone, because you had been in the membership, like Barbara, you were there. You guys have all cultivated this deep love, and it just felt so powerful to be in person and feel our care for each other. And I feel like that's what we're here for. We're here to come together, to heal, to feel, to liberate, to empower one another to like be in our light. And I feel like in that container, it was all of it. There's so much release, and there was so much opening and healing. And I feel like that's also what happens, every week when you guys are online. Like there's that availability to listen to spirit and what wants to come through for the collective healing and liberation and the evolution of everyone that's there.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to gather.
Love in
Chris,
person.
can you do us a favor? Maybe April, if you have it, can you put the link for the membership in the chat box so that everybody can have access to it? So there's the membership, y'all. It's $39 a month. Join. Again, it's month to month. Again, 4 calls at least 90 minutes. And it's me and it's all of y'all together every Monday night. And we get to drop in. There's a lot. And when you sign up there, you'll get your own private membership portal. I think right now the calls go back to, is it 2018, April, that we're going back?
2019,
2019.
when
So
it started.
there's almost weekly calls. There's a library of calls, and there's some on there that we've highlighted for you that have some powerful processes, reverse engineering, or cutting cords.
I have to interrupt. There are some weeks right in the beginning, Tuesday or the second week of each month, he gave us homework.
I did give you guys homework, yeah.
And it still happens occasionally, and it's fun homework and good for us homework. But the first few months, definitely, there were 3 calls a month and 1 week of homework.
Yeah. We kind of stopped that, the homework. That's all right. And we go back to it from time to time.
Well,
But
if
again,
there's something.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyway, it's a lot of fun, y'all. It's, again, the links in the chat box. You can always go to livingintheextraordinary.com to sign up. And if you're listening on the replay, the offer for the membership should be, there should be a box right underneath the video. So you can click on that and join. What also happens a lot of times, since the group is small, that I'll have members reaching out, asking me personal questions and assistance. And as I have time, and I typically do, I'll respond or send support. And there's a Facebook group in there as well. So there's a lot of support that comes in from community. And there's a lot of people who are healers and channelers and psychics within the community as well. And the support that comes in, it's like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of answering that way. That's actually really good. Thank you. So it's a powerful group. A direct application, Beatrice, no, you go through the membership portal and Living in the Extraordinary. So what happens is you'll have access online to your own page, and you can bookmark calls that you like. You get information on the link for Monday's call. The replays are up there. April also is amazing at sending out reminder emails to let you know that a call's coming up. There's email that goes out. Here's the link if you missed it. And we post on the Facebook page the calls as well. So we've almost made it too easy to access it, to be honest with you. I kind of want to start empowering everybody to start going through the portals, because we communicate through so many different media platforms. It's just nice to be able to land in one, but for the time being, we'll keep doing all those things to support everybody, and to have everything come out. So Eileen, this is Eileen. Join and you'll be happy you did. I would love to see you there. Beatrice, try it again, because we changed the platform. Because the old platform was confusing. We had to go, I paid a lot of money to do a new platform that it's working beautifully now. So that should all be resolved. And if you need any hand holding trying to get through any part of it, we'll direct you. I promise you'll find the information without a doubt. Give it a shot again. April, this has been wonderful. Courtney, it's been so good being on here with you in this capacity. With everybody else that's on the call. Again, we're running over again. This is typical on the membership calls. But I want to honor everybody's time and want to thank everybody that showed up and just that indulges in my sharing. I really appreciate it. And again, it's because of you all that I have grown so much. And again, I can't help but to humbly share that growth and those things that are leading to that growth with you, and hoping that it serves you somehow, that you feel the love that I'm receiving, and in my overflow, that you benefit from that as well. So thank all of you. Thank you, April. I love you. Thank you, Courtney. I love you. Y'all are amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. This was lots of fun and lots of good. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Until the next time, I'll see you on the call tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.